So many people feel unseen and unheard. So many people actually are unseen and unheard. And today in our series, Awesome God, we see that God is a God who sees. Someone wrote, a lot of people feel invisible, and for many different reasons. What do I mean by feeling invisible? Like you don't matter, as if you aren't a vital part of things, as if you are being overlooked or seen only for what you can do instead of for who you are. You're an object, not a real human being. Shame can whisper to you that you're not worth as much as others, that you aren't acceptable or welcome or important. Your invisibility can begin to define you. So many people are unseen and unheard, and some for different reasons. Their age, their ethnicity, male, female, disability, economic or marital status, neglect, many more things. A recent article regarding women in conflict-afflicted areas states that due to COVID, now, quote, those who are already unheard and unseen will be disproportionately impacted, end quote. God sees. God sees. For everyone who is unseen and unheard, for everyone who is forgotten, on the margins, the fringes, on the outskirts of being in, God sees. This thought needs to come into our mind. God sees. Theologian A.W. Tozer says, quote, what comes into our minds when we think about God is the most important thing about us. What comes into our mind when we think about God is the most important thing about us. God sees. Let this thought come into your mind, come into your heart today, that God sees. The writer of Hebrews chapter 4, verse 13 says, nothing in all creation is hidden from God's sight. Nothing. Everything is uncovered and laid bare. It's in the open before the eyes of Him to whom we must give account. God sees. God has compassion. In Exodus chapter 3, verse 7, speaking to Moses, the Lord said, I have indeed seen the misery of my people in Egypt. I've heard them crying out because of their slave drivers, and I am concerned about their suffering. He sees, He hears, He's concerned. The people of Israel enslaved for 400 years, crying out, thinking, I'm unseen, I'm unheard. But God says, I see, I hear, and I'm concerned. In the New Testament, Matthew writes in his 9th chapter, verses 35 and 36, Jesus went through all the towns and villages, teaching in their synagogues, proclaiming the good news of the kingdom and healing every disease and sickness. When He saw the crowds, He had compassion on them because they were harassed and helpless like sheep without a shepherd. He goes through town after town, city after city, village after village. He sees the crowds and He is moved with compassion. God sees, God has compassion, and He sees particularly. God sees particularly. When He sees, it's not as we see. God does not just see as things appear. He sees things, He sees people as they really are. We see things as they appear. Often we don't really see them as they are. He sees in particular. In the book, The Image of God, written by Stephen Siemens, he talks about the particularity of Trinitarian ministry. He speaks about this particularity of God's way of seeing begins with Himself, God the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit, and it flows from God to His creation. That God Himself sees the particularity and the otherness within the Godhead. The Father sees the particularity and the otherness in the Son and the Holy Spirit, and vice versa. This happens within God, who is one, yet three persons. God, the primary actor in Creator, particularly. Jesus, primarily acting in redemption, and the Holy Spirit primarily acting in sanctification. Do you see the particularity and the otherness that they see in one another? Yet, there is a great appreciation for the otherness and the particularity in the other. And that flows from God to how He sees His own creation. He leaves the 99 to find the one. He leaves the 99 to find the particular one. It's not a nameless one. It's not an unseen one. It's not an unheard one. He knows this one is unseen, unheard, missing, and yet He sees, He hears, He's concerned, He pursues. God sees, God cares about each man, each woman, each child. As Michael Ramsey states, quote, "The infinite worth of the one is the key to the Christian understanding of the many." The infinite worth of the one is the key to the Christian understanding of the many. The many has its understanding because of the particularity of each one. You who are unseen, unheard, forgotten, for whatever reasons, you are seen and heard. God sees you. He hears you, and He is concerned about you. I want to read from Genesis chapter 16, verses 1 through 16 in the New Living Translation, because this really is very particular about God, the God who sees. Some of you in this moment just need to say, God, I'm so unseen. I'm so unheard. I feel forgotten on the margins, unnoticed. Some of you feel unseen and unheard because of your birth order in the family. You feel like you're the one child who didn't give the attention because of the attention that was given to another. Maybe they had unique needs that caused the parents to look toward them more, and so there you are. Some of you feel unseen, unheard, because by this time something should have happened that has not happened for you. And you say, I'm unseen, I'm unheard. It hasn't happened by now, it's never going to. Some feel unseen, unheard because of a disability. They move into a place and there they are, and people passing by. They're unseen, unheard. Some because of ethnicity, because of injustice, because of so many things. Some have only recently come to realize, man, I thought I was seen, but that comment just let me know you really don't see me, you don't get me, you don't hear me. Genesis 16, 1 through 16. Now Sarai, Abram's wife, had not been able to bear children for him, but she had an Egyptian servant named Hagar. So Sarai said to Abram, the Lord has prevented me from having children. Go and sleep with my servant. Perhaps I can have children through her. And Abram agreed with Sarai's proposal. So Sarai, Abram's wife, took Hagar, the Egyptian servant, and gave her to Abram as a wife. This happened 10 years after Abram had settled in the land of Canaan. So Abram had sexual relations with Hagar, and she became pregnant. But when Hagar knew she was pregnant, she began to treat her mistress Sarai with contempt. Then Sarai said to Abram, "This is all your fault. I put my servant into your arms, but now that she's pregnant, she treats me with contempt. The Lord will show who's wrong, you or me." Abram replied, "Look, she is your servant, so deal with her as you see fit." Then Sarai treated Hagar so harshly that she finally ran away. The angel of the Lord found Hagar beside a spring of water in the wilderness along the road to Shur. The angel said to her, "Hagar, Sarai's servant, where have you come from and where are you going?" "I'm running away from my mistress, Sarai," she replied. The angel of the Lord said to her, "Return to your mistress and submit to her authority." Then he added, "I will give you more descendants than you can count." And the angel also said, "You are now pregnant and will give birth to a son. You are to name him Ishmael," which means God hears. "For the Lord has heard your cry of distress. This son of yours will be a wild man, as untamed as a wild donkey. He will raise his fist against everyone, and everyone will be against him. Yes, he will live in open hostility against all his relatives." Thereafter, Hagar used another name to refer to the Lord who had spoken to her. She said, "You are the God who sees me." She also said, "Have I truly seen the one who sees me?" So that well was named Beer Laharoi, which means well of the living one who sees me. It can still be found between Kadesh and Bered. So Hagar gave Abram a son, and Abram named him Ishmael. Abram was 86 years old when Ishmael was born. Here you have a moment in history, a particular moment that God sees, God hears, God is concerned. You need to say to yourself, you need to pray it out loud. You need to say, "Lord, you see. You're the God who sees me. I'm beginning to see the one who sees me. I'm beginning to hear the one who hears me. There's a fire in my heart with regard to the one who is concerned about me, who cares about me. I want to make a declaration today in this place. God sees. God hears. Let that so pierce your thoughts and your emotions that you would never ever again question, where is Almighty God? How could a loving God allow this to happen? He sees, He hears, He's present. He cares. But it may be a while before you see the one who sees. But He sees even when you do not see. In many ways, this story is about the faith and the flaws of Abraham and Sarah. Their names are Abram and Sarai, but God changes their names to Abraham and Sarah. They are full of faith and they are full of flaws. Like anyone who says yes to Jesus as Lord and begins to follow Him and practice following Him, you become full of faith, yet you remain full of flaws. And there are moments where your faith fails and the flaws seem to prevail. And it has consequences that are particular for you and for others. And in this moment, the consequences not only affect Abraham and Sarah, but the consequences affect Hagar, who is a servant, a slave of Sarah. You need to understand the backdrop. I admire Abraham and Sarah. I admire them because when God spoke to them, an invisible God, they chose to believe Him and leave comfort and become very uncomfortable to go and to do on a word. Have you found yourself full of faith in obeying God and yet it bringing a great deal of discomfort in your life? That you had to relinquish comfort and embrace being uncomfortable in order to obey God and have faith in Him? Has that happened at least once in your life? If not, check and see if you're following Jesus. Because He's always going somewhere beyond your comfort. They find themselves living in a land that God promised, expecting nations to be birthed from them for one reason: God said so. And after 10 years had passed, not one child. I know this about married people. They want to have babies. They want to have children. They want to have sons and daughters. It is a normal, God-given desire. It's a good thing. We left everything to obey God, and we've been living here 10 years, and we have no children. He said we would have children, Abraham. He said we would have kids, and I'm still just as barren today as I was the day we got married. Do something. We have prayed for people who could not have kids, and they have kids. We love God, we serve God, and we have no kids, and He said that we would become a great people. He has prevented me from having kids, and I don't know why. Maybe He wants to do it another way. Maybe there's another way. I don't know. Listen. Hagar. Nah, Sarah, don't say it. Don't say it. Yeah, it might be the way He wants to make a family. Listen. Think about how we were before we followed God. I mean, you and I actually have the same father. We have different mothers. We grew up in a culture like that. And I know we left that culture behind, but I don't know any other way. There's sometimes God has brought you out of something. He's caused you to live a different way. But you get to a place of despair. You get to a place of darkness. And the only thing, because you don't know the way forward, you go back. You go back. And you go with what you know because you don't think you know the one you started following. Sleep with her. Let's have kids through her. We can build a family. That's what we know. That's foreign in our ears, but it was the culture in which they grew up. There are things we do in our culture today. I don't have to list them, and it's just the way we grow up. And when you begin to follow God, you realize, that's culture, that's not Christ. And you got to let go of one to follow the other. You can put amen in the chat on that and list the stuff in the culture that you haven't let go of, and realize that to that degree you haven't let it go, that you're clinging to it, you're not clinging to Christ, even though you name His name. I'll say it for you. Amen. Godly men want to marry a Proverbs 31 woman. If you don't know what I'm talking about, just read Proverbs 31. Women, when they get married, they want to be a Proverbs 31 woman. Proverbs 31 woman is a godly woman. Sarah was a Proverbs 31 woman, but she was also a Proverbs 30 woman. In Proverbs 30, verse 15, 16, it says, there are 3 things that will not be satisfied, 4 that will not say enough. Sheol, in other words, hell, and the barren womb. That's Sarah. Earth that is never satisfied with water, and fire never says enough. The barren womb never says enough. I'm satisfied. Sarah, look, I know you can't have kids, but look, let's go climb a mountain together. Hey guys, I want to throw the biggest birthday celebration for Sarah. No matter what you do, she will never be satisfied. It'll never be enough because the barren womb never says enough. It never says satisfied. So no matter what you give, it still will not satisfy the barren womb. Desperate. Sleep with my slave. because I'm not satisfied. I got to get kids one way or another. She's a Proverbs 30 woman because of verses 21 through 23 now. Under 3 things the earth quakes, and under 4 it cannot bear up. Under a slave when he becomes a king, and a fool when he is satisfied with food. Under an unloved woman when she gets a husband. This is tragic. When a woman who is unloved gets married and remains unloved and realizes, I thought marriage would cure that, and it didn't. Can't bear up under it. And this last one is Sarah. And a maidservant or slave when she supplants her mistress. Hagar despises Sarah, supplants her, has contempt for her once she becomes pregnant. Hagar had not always been with Abraham and Sarah. During famine, they went down to Egypt to find food. Abraham said to his wife, look, these Egyptians, I don't think they're God-fearing. You're a beautiful woman. They'll kill me for you. Tell them you're my brother. Tell them I'm your brother. The flaws. When you make a move, you got to realize it's going to affect more people than just you. Sarah does it. The lie comes to light. God had protected Sarah. He would have protected her even if Abraham hadn't lied. We think we need to help God. When you step out of God's will in order to help God's will, when you just say, hey God, I know what you said you want to do, and the way you're going about it, it's taking a while, we're just going to help. God will watch you help so that you will see how helpless you really are. And how there's nothing we can bring about in our own strength. And once it comes to light, the king of Egypt tells Abram, take your wife who you lied and said was your sister. I almost slept with her. And they gave him gifts. That's what they do when they think you're the brother of this beautiful woman. So he left wealthy. Camels, donkeys, in our context, SUVs, houses. And they gave him camels, donkeys, male servants, and maidservants. We believe that Hagar was probably one of those maidservants. I don't think she wanted to leave Egypt. Egypt was the place to be. And in fact, it probably would have been better to live in a place where Abraham and Sarah had lived before they left, because both had nice homes, good mortgage. You hear it in context. Now they're living in tents in a land that's not their own. They're strangers, they're foreigners. So Hagar's like, I'm a slave now, and I'm living with you all in tents. And then you're going to make me sleep with this old man. You want to talk about somebody who felt unseen, unheard, forgotten, on the margins. And she's not even Hebrew, so she's not even part of the covenant. It says, Sarah treated Hagar so harshly that she finally ran away. I have no idea what that harsh treatment looked like. She was a slave. I know we talk about the Hebrews being enslaved by the Egyptians, but right now we have an Egyptian enslaved by the Hebrews. That one happened before the other. Think about that for a minute. She treated her so harshly that she ran away. I was made to leave Egypt. I was made to serve this woman. I was made to sleep with her husband. And now I'm pregnant. Yeah, I looked at her sideways when I became pregnant because I didn't want to be in this situation. She was pregnant and she was looking at Sarah, probably saying, yeah, I'm having your man's baby. Sarah's like, nah, you out. She treated her so harshly that this girl ran away. She has no mother or father, no family, no friends. She's a stranger. Now she's pregnant. She's a single mom soon to be. She is running and she's near a well, broke, hungry, crying, alone, unseen, unheard, uncared for. I can only wonder in our life today where people are struggling through 2020 and now 2021, the unseen, the unheard. God, have you forgotten me? There's no stimulus check coming to me at the well. I'm hungry. And it says in that moment the Lord appeared and says, Hagar. Hagar. What? Sarah's slave. She turns and the Lord is standing right there. Hagar, Sarah's slave. Go back to Sarah and submit to her authority. I know you're pregnant. You're going to have a son and you're going to call him Ishmael. And he's going to become a great nation. 12 rulers will come from him. I can't begin to imagine how one who is unseen, unheard, forgotten on the margins has a God who sees in particular show up and say, Hagar. I asked myself, how on earth could Hagar actually go back to Sarah and submit to authority after being harshly treated? I think on some level, when she begins to hear that God calls her by her name, Hagar, I see you. I see your situation. I actually know you're pregnant. You know God, and you're having a boy. No sonogram in that day to tell her that. You're going to have a son. Let me tell you what your son's name is. Ishmael, which means God hears because I've heard the cry of your distress. I'm the God who sees. I'm the God who hears. And though you are here unseen, unheard, I see you. I hear you, and I've come. And I'm concerned for you, and I have a purpose. Walk with me in my purpose. Not only do I know your name, you have a boy growing on the inside of you, and nations are going to come from him. I think she went back because she said to God, you had me at Hagar. They don't even call me by my name. When God calls you by your name, and he can say your name. Your mama says your name. Your daddy says your name. Your siblings, your friends, they all call your name and you know it. But when God says your name, it's like nobody else can say your name. Hagar, you see me? Lord, you see me? Young lady, I not only see you, I hear you. And I am concerned for you. And I'm concerned from Ishmael. I know him already, though you haven't given birth to him. I know the names of all your descendants, and if I told it to you now, you'd grow old and die in front of me. Don't you ever say you are unseen and unheard. God sees you. God hears you. He sees your family. He sees the city. He sees the capital when it's being attacked. He sees a nation that desperately needs to cry out to him. He sees it all, and he's not watching the news to understand what's going on. The clip or the reel you watch over and over on TV, that's a 30-second feed, he actually knows every person by name. He knows where they are, why they are, and when they are. You feel unseen? You feel unheard? Let it into your mind and your heart today. That God sees, that God hears, and that God is concerned. Lord, you see. Lord, you hear. And you are concerned. You care. You care for those who are on the fringes and the outskirts. You love them. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Pastor D.